children of nowadays, it feels like there's some sort of judgment attached to it.
Children of nowadays, they're most likely talking about me.
I can speak, but there's like this English intonation there, and then there's this thing where they teach you that you basically sound like a white man speaking Yoruba.
I don't have a Yoruba name just yet. I feel like that's the only thing that's missing.
I'll say I'm part Yoruba, I'm part Hausa, but I'm also Igbo. And everyone's like, oh, where's Igbo from? I'm like, I'm Igbo by association.
Welcome to Life is a Skit. I'm your host, Sam Toye.
Hi, Mmesoma. Hi, Saraunia. What we want to talk about today, I think it's kind of personal, yeah, because I feel it's personal because it's like a personal attack, yeah. You get these comments from older people, like people from older generation, and you hear the phrase, "Oh, children of nowadays," probably in like your language. I don't know. Do you guys get that as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I get it a lot.
Mostly in English.
In English, okay. Mine is usually in Yoruba. Like,
Yeah.
I get it from either like people. It can even be random people, right? So like most times, and it comes with some biases, right? Maybe for me, it might not be a bias, but it might just be how from your own experience of dealing with people from our own generation, right? I think two biases that I've seen. There was a time, now maybe not so much, but there was a time where people would see me and be like, like they hear my first name, Samuel, and they're like, oh, are you Igbo? Or like before they find out that I'm Yoruba, they'll be like, you don't look Yoruba. And I'm confused, like, they said I don't look traditional enough. Or maybe if I get a tribal mark, they would know that I'm Yoruba or something. And so I think there's also this one with the language thing. I think that is like the major one. But I feel like people from our generation don't speak the language, right? And people like walk up to me. I think there was this day, like I was waiting for a ride because I was joining a colleague to work, right? And this man just walked up to me. I think he had the intention of trying to make me drop something. So he just said like few words in Yoruba. He now asked, oh, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, do you understand? I was like, yes, Mugboing, like, yes, I understand. I replied in Yoruba to show him that, okay, I understood.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot. Like, people, if you go to the markets, they'll be speaking English to you because they think you don't understand the language, right?
Language, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I just wonder how, like, your own experience or what have you noticed, like, with the old, when people see you as, children of nowadays, maybe when they pass that comment to you, what does it usually come with?
Children of nowadays, it feels like there's some sort of judgment attached to it. When we're saying children of nowadays, it's never really in a positive light. So like when people say it, it's like, oh, maybe like this our generation, we're somehow disconnected from our traditions, or we have lost like a sense of our roots.
I feel like I'm very... If they talk about like children nowadays, they're most likely talking about me. And I don't have any, like, I can't even defend myself, like, no judgment. Like, I don't know if it's because of like the part of the country that I'm from or like how I grew up or whatever it is, but like, I have aunties, uncles, relatives that they will look at me and they don't even expect, like, you know how you said, a random person walk up to you and speak in your language, trying to see if you understand, or maybe speak in English because they just assume that, you don't understand the language. Like for me, it's like they always speak to me in English, always. And it's like whenever they do speak to me in like my own traditional language, like, it's easy for me to understand, but like they already have this preconceived notion because it's like, you're probably like, you just understand, you don't hear. So basically you don't speak the language at all. You're just like half in, half out. So
So
I get you. Like for me, like I'm not even like mad at it anymore. Like I've just accepted myself as I am.
As you should.
Other than like the language thing, can you speak your language actually? Let me ask that.
Why do you have to do me this?
Why?
Live
I mean, you'd have to be fluent because even me, self, not like I'm fluent, but how?
Okay. I won't say. I want people to think I'm, mysterious. Maybe you guys should like guess in the comments. Can we? But I mostly understand, like fluently understand. If that's a thing, if you rate fluency by how much you understand, I'll say I'm on a
Understand.
9.
That's a new one. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll take that, Sha. Let's keep it mysterious, like you said.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, you talked about how it's like a preconceived notion, right? And how they just assume. And I'm sure that assumption is not just from, oh, they just want to spice younger people or something. There is definitely basis to it. And like a lot of us can't actually either speak the language or like some of the other biases, like, oh, we don't actually rate our culture or stuff like that. I'm sure there's like something they've seen or things they've seen. And that happens a lot. I think in a way, I don't want to nail it back to, okay, maybe when we're in school, but I think there are two things when I look at this, right? Either the way you grew up, if you are not really exposed to it, I think there's this thing that I feel like our culture, like we're in Nigeria, the culture is everywhere, right? But it just depends on how much exposure you're allowed to have with it growing up. And you being able to speak your language, like you can still learn it, but like now if you don't know it, it's because you probably didn't have that exposure to it growing up. And I feel like even our schools, because I remember, I'm sure it's probably the same experience for you guys. Even in school, it was kind of seen as razz to like, I could understand in school because they wanted uniforms. But I think from there, you've already started teaching us that speaking the language was razz and it's just English you should focus on. And it's even moved on from primary school to secondary school, right? And not only even the language thing, I feel like even part of the cultural aspects as well, it seemed uncool to want to like associate with it. Because I remember back in secondary school, it was like a cool thing to be like, oh, I don't listen to Nigerian music or I don't, like it wasn't a big deal if you don't speak your language or anything like that. So people are feeling Yoruba. And like it was just a normal thing, So what is your own experiences, right? Why do you think maybe the way you maybe are now, if you can speak or you cannot speak, as some people have declined to share, like how you feel, how you are about it now? What do you think might have contributed to it?
What's that meant to me? You guys have already shaded me enough.
I mean, I feel like one thing is how much we have glamorized the Western culture. I mean, if we did not have that much exposure to it, our own culture wouldn't seem like it was, let me put in quotes, not sweet. I mean, talking about that language thing, I remember like in primary school, and this was a little more in secondary school, I had this one classmate and she used to speak Yoruba with me. And whenever she would want to talk to me, she would always speak like Yoruba. We'd try to like, speak to each other, communicate in Yoruba. And they would like, we had this rule, especially from our principal. I'm trying to find the term. Maybe not destroy. Was it, we'll say, don't speak. Is it vernacular?
Vernacular,
Yeah. So that was one thing that they'll keep on saying. It was like, no, in school, you cannot speak vernacular in school, da 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 da. As long as you're in this institution, you speak English, you're taught English, or you need to speak English, and da da da. It was seen as improper. But yet, we had like language classes, Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa. Another thing is, those are our three main tribes in Nigeria, right? And we've kind of seen the others as, what's the term?
Minority.
Can't look for minority. Okay, yes. They're like, everything is very much differented into how we've glamorized Western culture. I mean, look at how we as Nigerians, we feel weird whenever we hear somebody speaking English with their native tongue.
Yeah, native accents. Yeah.
We laugh at people. Let's say, I believe each and every single one of us has been guilty of that. Whenever you hear like the Hausa person speaking English and, they will mix up their P with their Fs and their Fs with their P. And when you hear them talk, like, you laugh at them, you try to mimic them. I mean, the Akwa Ibom Calabar people, there's an accent that they have. And We see it
Yoruba
as
people and their is it H factor now?
hate, yes, the hate factor. And we see that as, people like that, we always believe that they're not educated or they are rags, right? When you hear somebody that is from France speaking English with a French accent, oh wow, that's so, je ne sais quoi, or however they will say it. We don't feel like, oh, that's ghetto. The person isn't speaking proper English because of their accent. Like we see that as, oh, that's fine. Really, me, I want to be asked, like, what, why do we see our own culture, our own traditions as local, as ghetto?
Honestly, I feel like we've just grown up so whitewashed. As in, apart from the fact that, what's it called? Colonization, the British people, yada, 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 all this history stuff.
Yeah.
Apart from that, like, we just grew up whitewashed essentially. Like, growing up, if you hear someone, moved abroad, or maybe you have this cousin that they live abroad and they come for like, Christmas or Easter or whatever holiday, you would always want to like meet up. I don't know if that's a thing. Like, okay,
Or like
they come
be
and
like
they're
them
speaking in
somehow.
accent. Exactly. All of a sudden, your accent has to change because like you're around these people because you don't want to seem, minor to them for some weird reason, right? Honestly, I feel like it's not just like, it's how we grew up. So, I mean, I love our parents, right? Love them. Love to all the parents out there. But it's like, I also don't blame them because they too, that's also how their parents like kind of trained them. And then it's basically like a society thing. So like from one generation down to the other, down to the other, down to the other type of thing. And so now it's passed down to the children and it's like, I want to be like this. I want to sound this way. And basically, we're also not very rooted in our history, like our culture. Like you see all these, how they say now, I don't know if this is a very valid example, but all this Greek mythology, type things, like we know them. We're not Greek, like we're Nigerian, but like we know them and they
Exactly.
Yeah.
They seem nice and all that jazz. And then if you now start talking about Amadioha and Oduduwa and all these people, it's like, I don't want to be in your like history class. This sounds very boring. But I feel like as we are growing older and, Gen Z being Gen Zs, being loud and proud, there's a lot of not record, like, how's it called? Representation now. So, Sarah, I don't know if you can really, like, there's this book, right? Children of Blood and Bone.
Wow.
So it's
Oh my God. That was the book I was thinking about as you were talking about mythologies.
Oh no, Sarah, don't be that. Stop. No hate to you. I think there's like, they'll make a movie of it soon, so don't worry.
Yeah.
We'll catch up. Exactly. So it's basically like, it's not Greek mythology, but like it was an American, I think Nigerian American, I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but like an African Shah wrote the book and it's basically just like telling the story of all these like African gods with small g, and then it just seems so like cool and Greek mythology-esque, and you won't even know that is this a culture that we want to throw away into the backseat that someone is like bringing forth like in such a cool fancy light and everything. So I feel like as we're just growing older and people are becoming more woke, for a lack of a better word.
Better word, yeah.
But it's basically all about how we grew up, and it just takes like intentional effort to correct it, all that jazz.
That makes a lot of sense. Like, because I think another thing is the, like, based on what you said, right? The way we grew up, it's actually mostly from the way we grew up, right? Not being able to speak your language. I think, I don't want to assume, but like what I know of the people I know that cannot either speak or they don't really understand is because their parents probably did not speak it to them.
Yeah.
Right? If your language is spoken to you at home, at least you have some basic understanding, even if you can't speak it, right? I think for me, the reason why I would say I'm even still like fluent, like my mom speaks Yoruba to me, so I still know Yoruba, but mainly because of my grandma. So like I live with my grandma lives with me, so I still get to speak Yoruba. So I'm like unconsciously, I don't know, I always feel like I have to speak Yoruba to her. So it helps me at least still exercise that. Yeah. And another thing is, okay, when you're not like, another thing I notice, about language stuff is, if you don't have people to speak it to, even you that you know it, and you're not able to like speak it, you won't get as fluent as you should. So like when we now
Yes,
have a lot of
definitely.
friends, even if you have a lot of Yoruba friends, if all of them cannot speak Yoruba very well, or they can't speak Igbo very well, or they don't
Yeah.
even speak each other at all, like you won't even still be able to speak it. But like talking about I think I like the example you brought about the book, and how like maybe the way we tell some of our cultural stories in a way that could
Yeah.
speak to us now, right? I think maybe that's what looking at it now, like this is just a reflection. Maybe that was what they did not know how to do to like help us see ourselves or embrace our culture. I don't know if that makes sense, right? Because if we look at most of the things we grew up on, like all the TV shows and stuff, I mean, imagine if we're having them now. So I hope like maybe the younger children are watching some of these cartoons. I saw one was like Iwaju or something. I just pronounced Iwaju in English accent,
What?
but Iwaju. But like, yeah, like stuff like that. Imagine if we had more of those kinds of things when we were growing up, right? It probably would have helped a bit. But I don't know, other than, we're talking now about the awareness we're having about it and like this kind of cultural identity I think we're all trying to get. How would you say maybe you are currently trying to connect with your culture?
How are you trying to connect with your culture?
Yeah,
That's very
currently.
strange. Okay, I feel like now that I'm growing older, I'm actually more concerned about like, cultural integration and all that jazz. Like sometimes I sit and think to myself, like, what will my children like? Is it like they won't understand Igbo, they won't speak Igbo?
Right.
Like the highest they will do is just learn how to cook like Igbo soup, because at least for the culture, and then maybe little slangs and stuff. But like I'm trying to be more intentional about learning languages. Such a long shot. I hope my frontal lobe can carry, learn the language. Because I feel like if you, like you said, right, if you grow up hearing it, and it's like, I also feel like at a certain age, you just start to it's harder for you to now, how do I say this in English? Like you have to be intentional about learning it, as opposed to when you're growing up, say let's say 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, to like in primary one, you get exactly. It's like second nature to you and everything. But like, I feel like now, honestly, it will take me like, I'll probably have to take a gap year in my adult life to do some sort of cultural integration. I'll probably just move to somewhere in the East for like 6 months and just like get people to speak to me in my language. Because I'm pretty sure my mom has like given up on me. If I tell her, okay, mom, just start speaking to me in Igbo only, I won't blah, 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 she'll just give up on me. Because growing up, like, she tries to do that over and over and over again, but she self, at some point, she's also gets tired, right? And just switches back to English and everything. But, also, oh my days, this is also very, by the way. I don't know if the audience can relate. If they can, they should just leave a comment. But something I enjoy doing is watching African Magic. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't even defend myself. And not like African Magic as in, African Magic, but like basically Nollywood, anything Nollywood films. Like, I just love it so much. It just makes me forget about everything going on in life. So I think, right, watching that in Igbo helps. I don't know if there's a lot of like Igbo Nollywood, because it's mostly English, Yoruba sometimes. I know there was one on Netflix that I dragged Saraunia to watch sometime last year, and it was really cute. It was in Igbo, but like, you know, just doing like some tiny, tiny integrations, like in the media I consume, videos I watch, and that gap year, think about it, Sha. Maybe when I hammer, but yeah, that's what it's like for me.
So for me, yeah, I have a blend of two different cultures. So it's been a bit like growing up has been, let me just say, confusing because they are so different, and I'm more familiar with one than the other.
Do you mind sharing the cultures?
Okay, so I'm Hausa and Yoruba.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That is a very unique blend.
Yeah. So I grew up with the Yoruba culture, but technically I'm Hausa.
Okay.
So what I've been familiar with is the Yoruba culture. I've always felt like very much disconnected with the Hausa side because I don't really speak the language well as much as I'd like to. And I didn't really get that opportunity to connect with like that side of my culture growing up. So like at some family gatherings, I often like found myself understanding what was being said in Hausa, but not like really being able to respond. So like it made me kind of feel like I wasn't part of that world. Yeah, but my Yoruba side has been more familiar due to like my mom's influence. And but like, you know, there are still moments I'll have like, oh, I'm not still Yoruba enough. Yeah. Like, you know, I understand Yoruba to a very big extent. My speaking, see, that's another thing. I don't know if I'm the only one that experiences this, but I can speak, but there's like this English intonation there, and then they will like, there's this thing where they teach you that you basically sound like a white man speaking Yoruba.
Honestly, it happens.
Yeah.
So crazy.
And it's like that tone we've obviously, because of how much we have been so deep into the English culture, there's like a drift from how we, you know, speak our native dialects properly. So, but like recently, yeah, I've been trying my best to communicate, try my best to speak Yoruba, because usually when they speak it to me, I respond in English, right? Because I understand. But now I'm being intentional, communicating, talk to me Yoruba, respond in Yoruba. Then I'm trying to also get more familiar with my Hausa side. I downloaded an app. I downloaded 3 actually to learn the language. I went to learn the language, but like it feels so hard because then again, I don't really have much people speaking that to me. So another reason why that is because like my dad's side, like the Hausa people, they speak Yoruba also.
Wow.
So in order to, like for there to be unity, everybody just speaks Yoruba.
Yoruba.
Do you understand? Like, okay, our in-laws, they speak Yoruba, we understand Yoruba. Let's just everybody speaking Yoruba. So it's like, or yeah, like Mmesoma said, like being intentional, because honestly, I was really looking at it like, we're looking at the future. What's going to happen? Is it because of me that from my side that culture will begin to die, traditions will begin to die? Like I will only be able to speak like little phrases and stuff to my kids. Like, is that really what we're doing? Are we really about to do that? And it's not even just that. If you look at it, like if you're with like Yoruba adults now, like that's what I'm familiar with, and they speak certain proverbs, like my head just turns off. Like I don't have no idea what's being said. And I'm like, it's the same Yoruba. I feel like we really have to, like we in general, our generation in general, we really, really like need to be extremely intentional. We have to go into history. We actually need to read books. We need to know the stuff because the generation before us, our parents' generation, as you know, let's be realistic, they don't have that much time with us as, you know, they would love to have, love to have with them. So like right now, we need to be trying to drag as much information as we can from them. We need to be going to like historical places that are part of our cultures and safe, of course. And we need to like really, 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 really be intentional. Because if you really look at it, we don't even know, like, let's even just bring like culture aside. We don't, majority of us, I'm guilty. Like, I don't know like the in-depth history of Nigeria as a country. Those are things that, I mean, I say that it's not my fault because by the time we were in like primary and secondary school, they removed history from our curriculum. I don't know if that was only me, but like it wasn't my curriculum, So like deep, like, oh, well, the only will say, okay, yes, we know we got independence in 1960, da 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 da. When you go deep and they start talking about what happened here and what happened there during the colonial rule and stuff like that, we only know like the icing on the cake. We don't really know the foundations and stuff that, you know, this country has been through. And I think that's one thing that has really divided us in Nigeria, as
That's
divided us as a people and divided us as like different cultures. Because I mean, at one point when I believe when the British were in Nigeria, it wasn't about this tribe and this tribe. Everybody was like together.
Yeah,
But
well,
the whole
but
civil war and everything. So like, what happened? What caused that drift? Why do we have so much like intertribal wars and stuff like that? And now we, the younger generation, everybody's we're just focusing on ourselves and we're forgetting about, I feel like we're not really forgetting about our culture, but we're just taking like those little bits and pieces and,
Yeah.
like, in terms of music, fashion, the media, we see different ways that young Nigerians are trying to express themselves. And we're taking like the traditional roots and remixing them in a way to fit the modern world.
Yeah. Like
and definitely
culture nowadays.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like but if a younger, somebody that is, if it was a new Gen Alpha now should come up to you now, Mmesoma, and ask you,
God, I beg.
where did Owambe come from? What is this? And you're just going to be there and you're just probably going to open ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Am I wrong or am I wrong?
Like,
am I right?
They're back, obviously. So I still, maintain my adult composition. Not in their presence, but
Yeah. So like, I think it's something that we definitely have to
look into.
Come to terms that, and let's actually sit down together and actually talk about how we can change these things. Yeah.
I feel like you've touched on a lot, honestly. You talked about we were like taking bits and pieces, right, and kind of remixing it for ourselves now. And that's basically what is really happening. Like people that are taking maybe from the fashion side, you see maybe guys that are wearing like filler cap on their normal clothes, or
it's for the culture.
For the culture, or you see people like trying to embrace their traditional names, just different things like that. I think for me, maybe the way I'm trying to reconnect, the language part is still really big. I remember earlier this year I was thinking I want to try and learn a new language. I want to be bilingual. Then I was not thinking to myself, my mother tongue, the Yoruba self, is not so I'm like crazy fluent. I was just like, let me just focus on trying to like speak it fluently, right? And the other part would probably be the history. You were talking about like the colonial history, them removing like history from our curriculum and stuff. And it's actually true, like we don't really know so much about even our like cultural history. Like our history beyond colonialism, before colonialism, what was before Nigeria was like created, like when it merged, like what was that? Like what was the cultural history? I know. So just wanting to know more about things like that has probably been what has been maybe sparking my own self-awareness, I guess, and wanting to like learn about these stuff. Because I feel like our history is richer than 1904. Nigeria was amalgamated.
Yeah.
Like there's so much more. And I'm learning, there was a Yoruba empire that was like in West Africa, and like just different things like that.
Yeah.
Really interesting to find about. Go and do your research. You'd actually say like a lot of things.
I mean, I feel like if we're talking about what we can do next, how much more can we speak on?
Honestly, because at the end of the day, is individual to each person.
Exactly.
Because situation is different. Maybe even time itself, or like your own personal interest. Because at the end of the day, I don't think anyone can fully like learn. You can try and embrace certain parts of your culture and and hold on to that and know, okay, this is what I'm going to give the next generation. You can pick different parts. You can decide to focus on whatever works for you, I think. Maybe for me, that language thing, like Mmesoma said, I think what you guys are missing about, you don't want to be the one that's certain traditions and stuff die
from me.
Yeah, I think as we're recording this, I recently just came back from my hometown. Okay, I think someone knows this, but I came back from my hometown, and the last time I was there was like 10 years ago, right? Even if I learned anything when I was there 10 years ago, I can't really remember most of it. So it felt like I was relearning some of these things, right? And okay, I learned a bit about my family history. Like, okay, we are from like a line of, is it line of, like my descendants, so I say descendants, ancestors were hunters, right? And okay, I was thinking about, oh yeah, that's like where my surname is from. Just like different things you learn. And that was going back to my hometown. And you know, that those type of things, maybe going back to your hometown can spark something again. Learning about your family history. I don't know if it really adds to our cultural discussion, but like the way, like now we are here talking, right? Mmesoma is Igbo, I'm Yoruba. Saraunia is. Do you mind if I say you're mixed? But, okay, okay. So like in a way, I feel like it's also something that is part of it's something that we have as children of nowadays, right? We are kind of multicultural, right? We have a sense of, I mean, as much as we might not know so much about, not know so much, but we also have an idea of things from other cultures. Maybe just
other cultures,
maybe just by having friends that are from other cultures, right?
Definitely.
And that kind of adds some multicultural identity or stuff to us. I don't know if you guys have any maybe stories.
Yeah, definitely.
Experiences,
I mean, for me now, I would say, I'll say I'm part Yoruba, I'm part Hausa, but I'm also Igbo. Everyone's like, oh, when's Igbo from? I'm like, I'm Igbo by association. Because I have like, I have like a lot of Igbo friends, like a lot. Like it's not even like, oh, I selected or anything. It just happens to be how that has been. And in one way or the other, I've gotten like, needs and bits of like the Igbo culture and stuff like that. And I think like our generation, we're definitely, like you said, multicultural. I'm just hoping and praying that the whole being like tribalistic and stuff dies with us
in our generation.
Yeah, because I mean, definitely you will see that if we really want to be honest and not start controversies and all, but definitely we have a lot of people around us that say one or two things off about another culture, right? And most of those things are deep rooted in stereotypes. Like I cannot just I always find it funny, like, oh, I'm just going to see this person and I'm just going to automatically assume this is how they are because of this is where they are from. No, like we all forget that as much as like we're from different cultures, we're also individuals as ourselves. Like I'm just going to like imagine I'll just see a Hausa person. I'm like, this person is definitely uneducated. I don't even have to think too much. Or, just like those very weird stereotypes that we have and we breed amongst like you guys hear what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's passed down. And I feel if you see if you see anyone from our generation that's maybe tribalistic or whatever, it's based on what they were taught.
Yes.
Like what you mentioned about you see an Hausa person and you just assume they're uneducated. I know that people in certain let's say Yoruba circles or just generally people say that thing that maybe Hausa people don't value education like that.
Education.
Or so like it's really rare for you to see an Hausa person that is educated. Whereas I'm sure that might not be true. It might be true,
That means there might be some like truth to some of these things, but like to just generalize, is where I feel like, or
like even the other sides, I'm sure there are other ones like Igbo people have a certain way they think about Yoruba people, and Yoruba people have
so I'll say something to think about.
And I like the point you raised about even if you're Yoruba or you're Igbo, you're Hausa or Efik or whatever, as much as that culture is like part of your identity, you are still an individual. So like generalizing for everybody and just assuming, nah, man, that shouldn't work, sure.
I feel like just like Saru, I would say I'm fully Igbo, but like I identify as Yoruba to anybody who is say. I don't have a Yoruba name just yet. I feel like that's the only thing that's missing.
But we'll get one for you. Maybe we should get people to suggest names for you.
Yeah, they should just leave something.
Yeah.
about it. But yeah, the whole thing about like tribalism, it has never made sense to me. I grew up around like very tribalistic people, aunties, uncles, relatives, all that jazz, right? One of the strangest things I ever saw like in my household is that so my dad has what do you call it? Has a sister. the he had a lot of sisters, but like one of his sisters got married to a Yoruba man. And so growing up, it was very strange to me because not like anything, but all my other, relatives, they're all Igbo, 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 everybody Igbo, 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 right? And then like even you'd see like my auntie say this thing, like, I don't know if like this is how like it is like in other tribes, but like she'll just be like, Igbo men are just the best. They now take care of their wives. Like, don't bring Yoruba men to this house. So, Like I even have one of my cousins, right, that just got married recently. And my aunt, oh my days, I hope I'm listening to this. But anyways, my aunt is like the head of the house. So she's the first, like she's the oldest. She's almost like a grandma, right? So most things don't pass over her head. So it must always come through her. But this time around, they were getting married and the girl was from she was not Igbo, she was not Hausa, she was not Yoruba. She was like, I think Akwa Ibom, Delta, Efik, something of the sort, right? And they didn't tell my aunt about the marriage. They didn't tell her about anything. They just like, passed, like just didn't tell her because they knew that she'll be mad about it. And so obviously now they're married. She can't come and, annul the marriage because they're married. So she's a reverend. So it's like the outside of everything that she stands for, right? But now all of a sudden, like, the whole point of my story is that I grew up around tribalist people. And so I don't know if it was like the coconut head in me, but like I'd always made a resolve that, I don't get it. So I try to explore a lot. So I don't have a lot of Igbo friends. So the ones I do have, they are also like in my boat. So, are like twins. So they understand, they can't really speak, yada, yada. But then all of the ones are like different tribes, mostly Yoruba Sha. So that's why I identify as.
Yeah.
My point is, I think there was even a time in my life where I was so hardcore, as in so Wazobia, so much so that I was like, okay, when I have kids, I'll give, one Igbo name, one Yoruba name, one outside name.
My
I was in my patriotic bag, right? Then I think as I grew older, I'm like, okay, you know what?
Let's
none of my kids have jiggets. I was like, okay, none of my kids are going to have English names. So all of them will have only tribal names so that they'll carry on the legacy of yada, yada, yada. But now I've calmed down. Right? But like, my point is all these things, like, I even find that I find more, like, I feel very excited. I don't know if excited is like a stretch, but like, I'm always very willing to learn about, my second tribe, aka Yoruba. Like, Saraunia would know, like, it's literally like my Yoruba people most of the time.
True.
Like, I'm just very open to it. So it's not something, I hope that it stops, like Saraunia said, in this our generation. There are some times where I see people like behave like the generation before us, so like Gen X and older. And I'm like, how did you grow up? You hear like Gen Z's talking about how, oh no, they can't do this, because, this person is Hausa, or because this person is Yoruba, or it's not, Yoruba people. That's how they are. Like all these things, I'm like, it's very questionable, what you're consuming, how you grow up, whether are you not trying to, break down generational ignorance, or so it's just a weird thing. But I just really hope that I feel like people just need to be more open, because people are not, and people also need to try and fight what they grew up knowing, right? So like contend for knowledge by yourself. Like I remember the first time I read Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda, I think I'm going to go and reread that book again this year. I didn't understand most of the things, like, because for context, right? The book took place in, I don't even know, in the 80s or something, like very,
That
very
was before
old.
then, because it was set
It was
in
very
Nigerian
far. Do
Civil
you
War
get?
now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So all that history, it took place a very, very, very long time ago, like this setting. And so when I read it, I wonder how, I mean, of course, Chimamanda is older than us, like, okay. But like, I wonder, I'm very sure the things that she, like, read to produce, like, a body of literature like that, like, they must have predated how she grew up, when she grew up, the year she grew up. Like, it took a lot of, like, fighting for knowledge. She probably had to like interview like 50,000 grandmas and grandpas and like do all these things to like bring out such. And I feel like if like most of us in our generation are just very inquisitive and we don't just take things that people tell us as they are and then embody it and add it to, you know, our identity. Like, oh, sorry, I don't do Igbo people. I don't do Yoruba people. Like, if you did that, then you know, people would, I don't know, the world would be a better place, I guess. It would just be a lot better, honestly. And it will help in the whole, you know, cultural preservation, yada, yada, unison, blah, 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 all that jazz, you know? So yeah, I think that's what I have to say.
Yeah, I think if anything, I'll just add as like a caveat to the whole tribalism thing. I think there's a thing, I don't know if you want to say it's a Nigerian thing, but it happens where you just want to feel like you are superior to other people. I feel like most times it's just, people feel like they are better. Maybe Yoruba people feeling like, they are better than Igbo people or whatever. Like the people that feel this way and maybe take it on to be tribalism, right? You see that like the way it played out with the election. I think that was when it was really glaring that we have a real tribalism problem. I think for me, that was when it was like really in my face, like, yo, this is crazy that people are actually just voting for someone because they are from the same tribe, nothing else. And that was when I was like, man, this cannot be it. Like, you're not even looking at marriage, you're not looking at other things, just because of tribe. So hopefully, like, we are able to, I feel like, and because this whole multicultural identity of having multiple friends and stuff, it's part of the things that helps change our views about it. I mean, if you have an Igbo friend, would you still think that, Igbo people, I honestly I don't know what stereotypes Yoruba people use against Igbo, but I know the ones that Igbo people use against Yoruba. But just like if you have a friend from that other tribe, would you think they are like that? Of course not. So you can now go on carrying that around to other people. Okay, so I'll say maybe final thoughts. Based on everything we've said, what are you guys maybe taking forward or like taking with you?
Okay, final thoughts from me. I'm just going to say that, you know, culture, how did we even define culture back then? Culture is the total way of life of a particular group of people.
Yeah.
So definitely our culture is our way of life. Our traditions are part of what makes us who we are, and they are integral to being who we are, knowing who we are. Because I mean, in life, I think one thing that everybody tries to figure out is, you know, who am I? And that's a very, very big aspect of trying to find out who you are. Know your culture, your history, your traditions. It's very integral. And I for one, I am just trying to discover who I am. You know, Mmesoma knows me. I'm always trying to say, until I discover who I am, I'm not going to get into some certain things. So once you know this importance, like, you really know your culture, you know how you identify with it, you know, like those important things you're taking from it. I mean, that's what, and you love it. You learn to love yourself. And definitely when you love yourself, you won't take BS from anybody. So I, for one, battling with two different cultures. And I mean, it might sound challenging, you know, especially when you're trying to blend like the old with the new. Because I mean, you know, one thing that I think we do not really like hit on is how we actually have like new traditions coming up.
Are you serious?
In one way or the, like, you know, in one way or the other, we in our generation, we've created some certain like
Yeah, we're
new
facing new
traditions.
culture. Yeah, new
If
traditions.
you look at some
Ah,
if you look at some weddings now, there are some
yeah.
things that have been added to like traditional weddings that this is not from the grassroots.
Mm.
Are you
This is
Like
serious?
if you watch, like me that I'm familiar with like the Yoruba weddings, I see some
Mhm.
certain things that have been added. This is not how I remember attending some weddings from when I was younger. Some things have been added, but like they didn't just add it as something new. They just evolved it from something that they were already doing before and just made it more like lovable and enjoyable by all.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
understand? And it's not like you're not taking from it, but like you're adding to it,
Mm.
you
Mm.
know? And I think that that's
Mm.
something that we should also like individually try to do. I mean, there's some, because if we're honest with ourselves, there are some parts of cultures that are not, oh, I need to look for the right term. I'm not trying to get cancelled. Um, some part of our
Like,
cultures that will not go with the world or the society of today. Some certain
Okay,
things,
that's
or
yeah.
like in terms of maybe, like I'm not putting on
Okay.
anything, like,
Okay.
some things in maybe like gender roles and just
All that
it's a little bit
jazz.
here and there.
Mm.
But obviously there's more to our culture and traditions than any of that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to say from the conversations that we've had today and everything, I'm definitely going to, like I said, be more intentional about learning more about my culture, like
Mm-hmm.
in one way or the other, and putting it into like my everyday life, everyday life, Mmesoma, everyday life.
Sorry, what is that
And
repetition?
just
Oh,
learning more, learning to love you more, and spreading the joy and love that I have within me. I don't know if I'm making any sense,
You are. That's
oh,
true,
but
you
actually.
are
Yeah.
Aaron for
Yeah.
president
Yeah.
2024.
Mmesoma. So yeah, I
Um,
think for me that's it.
yeah, I think the thing you said about like um getting to know yourself, getting to love yourself, like is very valid. Like I think we are too quick to throw away like our culture, right? Like if for example now tomorrow you guys will just see Miss Oma has changed her number on WhatsApp. Give me 2 months now, or rather, like the norm. If I want to follow like what everybody is doing, right? Give me 2 months. My accent will just change, right?
Mm,
Because like everybody, I don't know why. it's like it's like a I don't know what it is, but like people are just too quick to throw away their culture. Like I have like
yeah.
a lecturer that I had in school. I won't give him a shout out because if you want one, you should run with my coin. Sorry, but that's my way. But anyway, so one of my lecturers will always say like the thing you said, Sarah, about if you see a French person speaking English in a French accent, you won't see a problem with that. So like, why should I have to change my Nigerian accent or like my Igbo accent or my Yoruba accent?
Mm,
Because I want, people around me to feel comfortable and stuff like when white people come to Nigeria, like regardless of the race, maybe American, British, you don't see them trying to form Nigerian accent because they're trying to, acclimatize to everything that's going
yeah.
on. Like just even to speak in you know, their usual accents and stuff. So I just feel like we shouldn't be quick to throw away the little that we have left of culture, seeing that at least for people that are on my group chats, you can't speak your language properly, at least very fluently. So don't throw away the little that you have of it, even if it's as small as an Igbo accent. Like there's sometimes I used to joke with my friends where let's say something I've started saying recently, Sha. If I'm speaking and then maybe an Igbo, like my Igbo accent slips out somehow, some way, some weird way. I'm like, oh my days, Amadioha, please let me go. I say it as a joke and everything. Like,
Yeah.
but it's like, it's like, don't just be quick to throw away what you have. Like, at the end of the day, there's something that I also picked up, and it's that unless you are yourself, you are nobody. So, who are you? For example, me, I'm Mmesoma. Mmesoma is an Igbo name, so I'm Igbo. And if I'm not myself, if I'm not Mmesoma the Igbo girl, then I'm nobody. Apart from obviously who I am in Christ Jesus. But I'm nobody. I'm just trying to be something I'm not, like fit into a mold. And it's like, at the end of the day, you're just going to be second in command to whatever it is you're trying to be like. So be proud of your culture. Be proud, like something I want to do, at least take away from this and like, try to make a habit of is to get comfortable speaking in my, I won't say Nigerian accent, but like get comfortable speaking in my Nigerian accent wherever I am, regardless of who I'm talking to. I mean, obviously now that, we're just with each other, we're all African, all Nigerian, so like I don't feel the need to, sound a certain kind of way, but there's just something that happens where you happen to be in the company of, say, white people or in the company of people who have accents, and then you're just trying to, mix in and adapt and acclimatize and stuff. Like, one thing I want to take away is just to try to be confident in who I am, at least who I have been made to be by virtue of culture I've been surrounded by and all that jazz. And then also, like, read more about it. I'm a very big reader. At least I used to be. I'm trying my best to get back into reading. And I also read a lot of Afrofiction, but like I shy away from the ones that have to do with history. And because it's like, girl, no, I don't want to learn all that. But like, for the sake of the kids.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you're listening and help more people join the conversation by sharing it with a friend. I'd also love to hear your thoughts on the topic of this episode, so share them with us on socials. Thank you for listening, and I hope you join us next time.